Hi, Dr. Mark here at Natural Health. Hope you're having a great day. We're going to go through our patient education workshop. The history of the workshop is that before all this virus stuff going on, we would have these meetings at least once a month for new patients. And it just kind of got to the point where with everybody staying home, people got used to that, so we're having a hard time getting people to come. So we decided to go ahead and put it on a video that people can see at home. That makes it easy for them. The really big purpose of this education workshop is to get people to understand how nutrition response testing works and why we do it, what's going on here. So as a little background in our office here at Natural Health, I've been in practice now going on 42 years, doing nutrition and chiropractic at the same time, the whole time. The two of them work very well together because the chiropractic work, you're working on the nervous system, get the nervous system to work correctly. With nutrition response testing, you're removing the barriers that keep the body from being able to heal itself, like heavy metals or food allergies or things like that. And then you're giving the body the building blocks it needs to repair itself. So many people think that chiropractic is just for neck and back pain. That's not how it started. It started out as a complete health paradigm that chiropractic would, again, working with getting rid of toxins in the person's diet or environment, even back in 1885, working on getting them to eat correctly, reducing emotional stress, those kind of things. Anyway, as you get the nervous system to work correctly, the body can heal itself. Now, back in those early days, they didn't need as much nutrition because they were already in pretty good shape nutritionally. They didn't have Dunkin' Donuts and all these places to go eat junk at, so they're in pretty good shape. So that's why when chiropractic first started, a lot of miracles would just come from one adjustment and pow, you'd be this big miracle. And so we can still do that. The trouble is, in this day and age, many people have a lot of nutritional deficiencies, and their bodies just don't heal as fast. So, but the reason we brought nutrition, or I brought nutrition into the office, was to help the chiropractic to work better and faster. We're always trying to work better and faster with all of our treatments, and people sometimes can go that fast, sometimes people don't want to go that fast. But it's a matter of giving people the ability to get their bodies to heal themselves, keep themselves healthy, and actually enjoy life. How I got into chiropractic, I was raised on a farm. We had a lot of hogs on the farm. And so working with the hogs, I got knocked down a lot and all that kind of stuff. And that got me into the chiropractor's office. And then I had a lot of allergies and things too. We were working in, scooping out grain bins and all kind of stuff, working in hay mows, even in hot weather. So the deal was that, once I got into work with nutrition, I could help myself to get that cleaned up. And so that's how I got into it. And of course, I really don't have much problem now unless I do silly things. So I try not to do that. So anyway, that's kind of the history of how I got into chiropractic and nutrition. And again, been doing it for 42 years. And now I have Dr. Chip, my one son, is the chiropractor here. And then my other son, Eddie, is here to be the office manager. And we're just working working really well, trying to get more and more things smoothed out in our office so it's easier for patients to come in, get their service, get out, and really enjoy life rather than having to go and get medication and different treatments. We're trying to actually look at underlying causes of problems, a whole different health paradigm. And that's where we're trying to shift actually the whole country eventually into looking at what's actually good for health, not just let's take a pill and cover up the symptom and you still have problems. So anyway, that's enough of that. So on the little triangle here, you can see we have organ dysfunction, nutritional deficiencies, and disease. Now, the disease there we're talking about is really any degenerative disease. So that really covers most all the problems that Americans have. And the bad part about in America, we spend twice as much as any other country on healthcare and have some of the worst outcomes because right now our mainstream medicine is geared towards drugs and surgery. That's their treatments. And there's nothing that they don't do anything about prevention. It's just a matter that, if you have a problem, then you come in, and if it's not bad enough, we can't do anything yet, wait till it gets bad enough, then you can come in and we can treat it. and do surgery or whatever. And so our goal at Natural Health is to look at, again, underlying causes of problems and get rid of that. So I'm going to show you at least one of those today. We're going to start with a few handouts. We have a lot of handouts that we will have on our website accompanying this video. And the first one is called Myths and Truths About Nutrition. So there's a lot of things out there that we've heard over time that aren't really true. So I'll read one here, and you can kind of get an idea of what we're looking at here. So the myth is that to avoid heart disease, we should use margarine instead of butter. And so the actual truth is margarine eaters have twice the rate of heart disease as butter eaters. So the really point there is that mainstream or modern medicine has tried to get us to look at these chemical things that they think in a chemical lab are better for us. But when you go back to what did mankind use and grow up on forever and ever, well, butter's been around forever. And people have used butter for a good oil source, and of course your good oils are where vitamin A, D, E, and K come from. And so you want to have good oils. All your steroidal hormones come from good oils, and butter is one of the best. So that's just a quick little example of what we're doing with myths and truths. Our health, what exactly is the problem? So I like to read this first paragraph, kind of get you, again, a little idea of what's going on. We have drifted into this deplorable position of national malnutrition quite inadvertently. It is the result of scientific research with the objective of finding the best ways to create foods that are non-perishable and that can be made by mass production methods in central factories and distributed so cheaply that they can sweep all local competition from the market. Then, after it develops a suspicion that these quote-unquote foods are inadequate to support life, modern advertising steps in to propagandize the people into believing that there is nothing wrong with them, that they are products of scientific research intended to produce a food that is the best, the last word in nutritive value, and the confused public is totally unable to arrive at any conclusion of fact and continues to blindly buy the rubbish that is killing them off years ahead of their time. Sounds kind of familiar with all the latest news and stuff out there. But anyway, this was written over 80 years ago by Dr. Roy Lee. Dr. Roy Lee is the inventor and developer of Standard Process, our main nutritional supplement line, producing whole food supplements. We don't work with vitamins, we actually work with whole foods. It's a whole different animal, and whole foods are what the body's meant to have to heal itself with. Artificial vitamins are basically just a safer form of medication in certain ways, and they don't work in the body a lot of times like a whole food vitamin will, because of all the cofactors and coenzymes and other vitamins involved. So that gives you a little more understanding of why it's important to look at nutrition and diet and environment, as well as pain and agony and things like that. Look at the function there. So I'll go through this one too. This is also would be in our packet that you'll get. You'll see on our website. This is a little sugar quiz to see if you're sugar addicted, and it's got a lot of questions on here. You just go through it, but I'm going to read the quiz results so you kind of get an idea about that. So if you answered false to more than 4 of the statements, chances are you probably are sugar sensitive. You are probably allergic to sugar and also addicted to it, the same way an alcoholic is addicted to alcohol. You crave sugar, have withdrawal symptoms when you don't get it, and probably feel better for a short time after you've eaten it. In eating sugar to feel better, you are actually making the condition worse, the underlying cause worse. If you answered false to 4 statements or fewer, it doesn't mean that you don't have a problem with sugar. You may not be addicted to it, but perhaps you don't quite realize just how much sugar you are eating. So we have up here addicted to alcohol, but even cocaine is addicting, but sugar is much worse than that, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 8 times more addicting. And people don't realize that that's even possible, that sugar can be that addicting. So let's go through a little bit more explanation on our triangle here. And so again, anything can cause anything in the body. We're looking at underlying cause. We want to figure out what the cause of the problem is so we can handle this degenerative disease, whatever that is. So we have the other parts here of the triangle, and to realize is the bigger the triangle gets, the worse everything else is at the same time. So that the more nutritional deficiencies you have, the more organ dysfunction you have, the more disease you have, and the part of the mainstream medicine looks at genetic causes. Yes, there are genes in certain families that lend towards certain diseases, but it's the study of epigenetics that has to do with the environment that turns the genes on and off. So a lot of times you'll find a family who has heart disease in their family, or has cancer, or diabetes, and that's kind of the genetic factor. That's just a preponderance based on their diet and things like that. Most of the time families eat the same thing. So it's just an interesting part to realize there is a genetic part, but it's not the cause. It's just what happens. So as we go through this and we're looking through more nutritional deficiencies, the more disease you have, the system's not working correctly, the more nutritional deficiency. So this makes a big negative spiral that gets worse and worse and worse. We want to put a halt to that. We want to stop the body from getting worse and get the body to be healthier. We will look into our goodie bag there a little bit more. This is the paperwork we call the goodie bag. And so in here is another handout called the 146 Reasons to Avoid Sugar. So it gives you basically a list of all the degenerative diseases that sugar is a problem with. The 78 names for sugar. The manufacturers know that this is a problem, a troublemaker, so they've got all these different names for sugar. So like if you go to the store, you'll say you have no added sugar. Well, yeah, the sugar's not in there, but maltodextrin is, or some of these other 78 or 77 different names are in there too. So, and we also have another one that's talking about sugar's many disguises here. So that's just some information that you can get a hold of and understand how that works. So as we just put sugar up here as the main, as the top, so that it works the same way, because the more sugar you eat, the more nutritional deficiencies you have, the more organ dysfunction you have. Again, a big negative spiral. Now, a little differentiation in the word sugar. If you talk to people, especially in mainstream medicine, about sugar, that's all fine. The body runs on sugar. We're supposed to have sugar. Well, that's true when you're talking about fruit sugar or even the sugars in vegetables, but never the processed white sugar. Our bodies were never meant to have something like that. It would be like if you had your body's running on diesel, and it just runs really smooth on diesel, and you fed it gas, and it just, of course, it blows the engine up. And that's because regular sugar in a complex starch, like potatoes or even fruits and things, that has all the minerals and other things with it, so the body can absorb it slowly. But when you talk about refined sugars, you talk about the glycemic value being very high. Glycemic value has to do with how fast the body can absorb it. So like a potato is a low glycemic value, but a donut is very high, and the body just sucks it in. It was never meant to have that. So when that happens, then insulin is spiked. You have lots of insulin running around the body trying to get all that sugar out so you don't go into a diabetic coma. And the insulin irritates the blood vessels. So that lends towards all kind of vascular disease. And again, the white sugar, since you've taken all the minerals out of it, the body's using the sugar for energy, as it does, but there's no nutrition with it. So then it's robbing the stores of vitamins and minerals to burn that sugar. And that robs it mainly from the immune system, but all the other systems too. And you end up with these organ dysfunction, more disease, all that kind of stuff. So important to realize that there is a problem with using white refined sugar and flour. You can add that word with it too. And that's gotten a lot worse since the early 1900s, when it was cheaper to get sugar. And there's a lot of history books, and we're going to talk about some of the books later that are available that really get into a lot of deep dive into that. As we talked before about some of the habit of sugar, you have to be really able to realize that yes, you do have a habit, and you do want to stop it. You want to get better, but you have to, kind of like the Alcoholics Anonymous, you have to really admit to the problem to begin with. And then when we go through our nutrition response testing and go through the nutrition, we have ways of helping people get rid of that addiction. When people are craving sugar, that means you're really low on minerals. And so we supplement a lot of minerals there, and then the body doesn't crave that sugar as much, and you can get rid of that addiction quickly. So then, if something like this is important to you, if it's something you want to handle, like if you have a degenerative type disease and you're wanting to handle that, that's important to realize that you do want to. You really want to handle the underlying cause. So how is this affecting your life already? So if you're having problems with, say, heart disease, and you can't even, walk across the room without breathing hard and all that, well, you don't have very much quality of life. So, in our office, we want to get that heart strengthened back up. We want to get the circulatory system working again. So then the question is, what's it going to be like in the future if you don't do anything about it? Well, pretty soon you'll be, in a wheelchair or bed or whatever. So again, these things continue to get worse if you don't ever look at the underlying cause of the problem. And then two, how serious are you about working with this? If you just go, well, I love this phrase, you got to die of something. That's fine, but how are you going to die? Are you going to end up in a nursing home for the last 20 years of your life? I had my godmother, and she was diabetic, and she had a bowl of candy around all the time, so they ended up having to take off a toe and a foot and a leg and all that kind of thing because of diabetic problems there. So these things will get worse if you don't start looking at the underlying cause of problems and get those handled. So that's the interesting thing we're talking about here when we get into nutrition response testing is there's a way that we can help. We can help all these degenerative conditions by working on the nutritional efficiency side, getting that negative spiral to go positive and getting the body healthier over time. So let's go ahead and head to the next slide here. So nutrition response testing is the name of the technique that we use to figure this out with. And so what we're going to do is a little bit of a demonstration here, and I'm just going to do it myself so I can kind of explain it. So muscle testing is a way that we access the body, and it's just a neurologic way of asking the body what problems going on in it, like a reflex. So, and muscle testing works on the principle of hypothermia, where if you have, say for instance, you go out, you're going to go ice skating, and you fall through the ice, and you get back out, well, you want to get back to the house or somewhere warm before you freeze to death. And so what the body will do is it has a built-in mechanism of protecting the core of the body, the central area where all the organs are at. And it'll sacrifice the fingers and toes and appendages to keep the core in good shape, to survive, in other words. So when we're doing muscle testing, you're actually just taking an arm, you're testing that strength of that arm, and then when you go through different areas, we call dermatomes, or areas of the skin that are above an organ or are close to an organ where the neurology is connected, and you irritate that, then the arm will go weak. So for instance, if the arm is strong when I test a patient, and then I irritate the heart, then the arm goes weak when I test it. That means that heart is weak, and the body's pulling energy out of that muscle to help that irritation of the heart. So then I know that there's a problem with the heart. Now, we're not looking at disease issues when we do our nutrition response testing. We're looking at weaknesses, energetic weaknesses, and then using nutrition to fix that. So when everything in nature has about 2 feet of energy around it. Anything that's organic and growing, there's an energy around it. Now, this is not voodoo or magic. This is simply energy. It's the same energy that you use to do an MRI, an EKG, an ECG. You can feel a body's heat when you get close, that kind of thing. It's just a radiant energy. So that energy is something that we can work into. It's hard to see, of course, but it's there. So again, like we have a product called Cardio Plus, which is whole food supplement in a form that's there to help heal and strengthen, or help the body, I should say, to heal itself and strengthen the heart muscle. So the heart is really a fairly easy thing to fix because it's just really a muscle. And if you get the muscle working strong and working good, the valves all line up and everything works really well. But when hearts are weak and enlarged, well, then the valves are not working correctly and they don't work right. You get prolapses and things like that. So anyway, so what we do then is just take a bottle of this nutrition, put it on the body, and it'll energize the body for a short time. The vibrational energies, the energies we're talking about, the radiant energy and heat will interact with each other, and if the body is congruent with that, when I put that on the body and check the heart again, the muscle will stay strong. So then that tells me that the body likes this nutrition for that problem. Now it seems kind of weird, but we use it this way all the time, and we have a lot of fun with patients when they come in the first time explaining all this to them, and they're all very amazed how this works and how well it works, and it's worked forever. So again, we're back to doing principles that actually work towards health in humanity rather than trying to think up new treatments and drugs and things like that. These are old principles that have worked forever. So that's how nutrition response testing, that's how we do our muscle testing there. And again, I want to reiterate that this is not voodoo or magic or anything. It's just a way, it's just a reflex that we know how to access. And then there is an art to it in that I've done it for years and years and years, so I can feel how that works. Now, one of my big purposes when I have people come in for nutrition response testing is to show them how that works, to make sure they understand that, because it's their body telling me what nutrition they need. So again, over the years we've done blood tests, urine analysis, hair analysis, salivary testing, and those things are great for disease processes, but they don't tell you much about what nutrition you need. I mean, there's a couple things like maybe iron or calcium, but otherwise there's no test for zinc, you know, so you have to know what you're doing, and then again, get it from the right source. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. So that brings us to a couple more handouts where the body has we call this the 3 tastes. The body has a taste for sugar, salt, and fats, and the manufacturers know how to use that against us. So anything that's processed will be high in one or all of those from a bad source. The cheap salt, the cheap sugar are bad fats, because bad fats are easy to keep on the shelf. And so that's another reason why modern science has taken good fats and good oils and processed them to the point where they, of course, won't go rancid on the shelf, and then they can sell it forever and ever, and it doesn't have a problem that way. And so just an important part to realize there too. We also have in this packet a little handout that goes into a little bit more deeper explanation what nutrition response testing is. It's basically a new patient orientation sheet, but a lot of good stuff there that explains more about what we're up to. And it's a very solid thing. We have lots of nutrition response testing practitioners across the United States. Most of them are all doctors and chiropractors, but there are actually some MDs and nurses and things that do this work. So it's not like it's just something I pulled out of a hat. It's actually things that we work with. So good. So we'll talk some then about design clinical nutrition. As we go through this, you'll to realize that when we do a program like I was showing you with the arm strength there, there's a whole scan we do for the body, and everybody's body is different. Everybody has different issues. And that can come from either the environment, the foods they're getting into, you know, their genes that come from, you know, grandpa and grandma, all these things, or that's again the preponderance. But if their body's stressed, then these genes turn on and off, that kind of way, or just the stresses they're under, different kind of things. So Standard Process has over 200 different nutritional products that help with different things. And then we also use MediHerb, which is the herbal side of Standard Process, the herbal companion. And so we have nutrition we use that helps to give the building blocks, and then we use herbal things that help it to work better and faster. Ideal too, as we're doing this program, this is not a cookie cutter type program. It's not one size fits all. It's more like a 3-button tailored suit that we're making it for just that person. And not only the products, but also the amounts. We have to tailor that down because some people are more sensitive to others, and it's a very individualized program when we get to that part. So when we figured all this out at our initial screening, then we have an idea of what underlying things we have to work on. Now, I've made that statement about anything can cause anything. So as an example, say you're really stressed out, you just work too hard, too many hours, and your adrenals are shot. Well, that can affect the heart because the adrenals produce energy, produce adrenaline actually. It gives the body energy for the heart to work. And so then if you're having heart issues, it can come from the adrenals. Things like that. There's sometimes a complicated routine or route we have to figure out that's causing that symptom complex. So again, making the design clinical nutrition approach there. So, but as we go through this and we have a new patient come in, normally in our patient education workshops, we do many tests there to see if they are a nutritional patient. Because if they're not a nutritional patient, there's not much we can do with them. If they don't show us a reason how nutrition can help, then there's no reason to go into a nutritional program. But if they do test positive, then really there's not much else that can help the underlying cause. Now, of course, medication forces the symptoms under control, but that doesn't help really the underlying health. And again, when you're doing that and then continue to eat the junk, go into the negative spiral, those conditions get worse over time, and usually people have more and more side effects from the medication, and they're on more and more and more medication. And so, that outcome is not good. That's why nursing homes are so full, why we have all these Alzheimer's and dementia units and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of problems with that kind of a deal. So we'll go over a couple more handouts. Again, we have nutrition or natural health patient testimonials. So we've had a lot of patients come through our doors over the years. We've gotten their stories, a lot of testimonials from patients on how well they're doing. I look at lab tests. I mean, I talked either about that I don't use the lab tests for determining what nutrition to use, but we do look at those. If patients have lab tests, we look at those. And so this one here is a vitamin D report that their vitamin D was at 29.7. With working with him, getting digestion back on track, and the diet working correctly, we had it to 33.0 without even giving him vitamin D. Now, people a lot of times will take D3, which is a synthetic form, but it may not help their blood work at all. Sometimes it does, sometimes not, depending if they can absorb it. All your soluble vitamins have to be absorbed correctly. That means the gut has to be working correctly, and the liver. And most people's liver are toxic or overloaded, and we can help get that figured out. We have another one here where we had an A1C of 8.0, and we had it down to 6.6. Again, just by changing diet, using nutrition. No drugs, of course, get away from the drugs. So that's just a couple examples of that. Then we have, there's a lot of books. We can talk about books that are available. We don't have those here, but we show how to get those, and you can do more research on your own. Websites are out there. There's a whole bunch, especially the westernprice.org website has a lot of great information on organic growing, organic eating. It's really good stuff there. So let's go back and head to the next slide. Good. So when we're talking about our work, we're looking at overall health here. We're not just wanting to treat a symptom and just the one symptom. So again, mainstream medicines compartmentalize themselves. You have to go to the heart doctor. You have to go to the ear, eye, ENT, the ear, eyes, nose, and throat guy. You have to go to the cardiologist. And so the problem there too becomes, well, each one gives a different drug. Sometimes they don't pay attention, and again, people are on a lot of medication. I have people come in here. The record has been 31 medications. One lady came in on 31 medications. Of course, she didn't last very long. Couldn't really help her much. But it's just a shame to see people that have gotten themselves into that kind of thing. So again, we're working on overall health. It's not a quick fix. It takes time. Many people have had these problems for decades, so it takes time for them to heal. But that's okay. At least we're going in the right direction rather than watching them get worse and worse in a negative spiral. We're trying to get them better. And even in the first 12 visits, we try to start patients on 12 visits, so we have some chance of seeing how they're going to come. Most people do it very well, have a good outcome in that 12 visits after 90 to 120 days. and then we try to work those lifestyle changes into their habits so that then they just continue to get well over time with periodic checks there. So we work again on elderly and children too. Since we're using a whole food, it's safe and it's natural. None of the things we do here cause trouble. The worst thing that can happen with our nutrition is it doesn't work. So there's not a downside. Where medication, of course, can cause all kinds of problems, and that's the fourth leading cause of death in this country is medications, prescribed medication. So people won't realize that, but yeah, it's pretty tough there, and it's just unnecessary. It's a deal that you should be able to avoid that, but we're tied into this mainstream medicine and insurance deal. Everybody works to have insurance, and then they think insurance should pay for their health care. Well, it pays for disease management, and that's what our health care is right now. It's disease management. It's not true health care. What we're doing here is actually health care, getting the body healthy and helping it to heal itself over time. Again, we'll start kind of wrapping up here. I'll go through a couple more of these. The new childhood in America. So this is an older stat. They talk about 1 in 3 is overweight. Now I think it's about 50%. 1 in 10 has ADHD. There's food allergies, seizures. But talking about autism, now that's down to 1 in 30, I think. And the number's 35, but the number's even worse for males. Males have a little more problem than females with autism. So, it's a thing that we're not getting people well in this country. The mainstream, they do a great job in keeping people alive and helping them in emergencies. But as far as true health care, as far as getting a body healthy, they're just not into that. That's just not their bag. They have lots of things to do to keep up on the scientific research about medication. So they really don't take the time to look at nutrition. Most of the doctors have about an hour or 2 or 3 of nutrition in their whole medical career. And they learn about maybe vitamin D, maybe calcium, maybe magnesium, maybe B12, and that's about it. Because that's things they can prescribe in a medicated form there. But as far as really understanding about foods and how that works, it's just not, you just don't have the time to deal with that. So that's why we're here at Natural Health, is an alternative way of looking at health and trying to change the healthcare paradigm from that of disease management to actually healthcare. Now, on the paperwork that you'll see on the website, we do have a patient education workshop screening form. And if you're interested in having a check, you can fill that out and bring it into the office, and or even call the office and tell them what you watched and have that filled out. And we can either start a program, or I do offer free consultations. If people are not really sure what we're doing exactly or have questions, we can do a free consultation and then work them into getting the initial nutrition response testing exam and see what's going on in there. I find that it's really exciting for patients to actually see what's underlying, what's causing these symptoms they have. And again, many people have been fighting them for a long time. So I hope that's been educational there. There's a lot more things we talk about when we have patients come in. We have a lot of handouts that we hand out for patients to help them to understand about food and nutrition, and even more information about nutrition response testing. We're always really happy to help patients in any way we can. And you have, again, resources there on our website, naturalquincy.com. We have videos on YouTube and Brighteon.com. That's at Natural Quincy IL. So just some ways that you can get more information. Again, always call us. I think that's about enough for today. And I really appreciate you taking the time to review this video. And hopefully it's making sense. Hopefully it's stimulated you to really start looking at health and get away from this disease management paradigm that we're stuck in right now. I think this virus thing really showed that up a lot, that the powers that be really don't know what's going on for sure. Again, there could be scientific things, but is that how the body actually works? Is that the truth when it comes to real health? So we're here to help. Give us a call. The number here is 217-228-2040. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks a lot.